In this 1.7 million square foot warehouse campus, goods are imported into the U.S. in hopes of deferring, or in some cases, avoiding pricey customs duties. A foreign trade zone, or FTZ, is a physical site located near a U.S. port of entry. There, goods can be stored, assembled, modified, or repackaged duty-free. Fees are collected only after a product leaves the zone and enters U.S. commerce. And so a foreign trade zone is a tariff mitigation maneuver.
Correct. The duties that you would pay to enter U.S. commerce is really what we're sheltering you from with a foreign trade zone.
Located in all 50 states, there are roughly 2,240 FTZs, according to U.S. Customs. In 2023, FTZs received roughly $950 billion in merchandise, more than double the 2005 level. Unlike the 2018 trade war with China, President Trump has made this trade war global, imposing tariffs on most countries. In his second term alone, Trump issued at least 30 different presidential directives related to trade and tariffs. The rapid change has led U.S. shippers on an odyssey, looking for new ways to mitigate tariffs.
We really saw that interest in the foreign trade zone program escalate exponentially.
But a rule change by the administration has also drastically changed the way FTZs operate.
Unfortunately, the way that these executive orders are written are now actually turning the advantage that FTZs and U.S. Foreign Trade Zone program offers into a disadvantage.
Helen Torkos runs a road striping business in New York.
The uncertainty has kept me up at night. So I'm really concerned because even though today is this, tomorrow could be something else. A month from now could be totally different.
So how do companies use foreign trade zones to mitigate custom duties and tariffs? And how will the change to FTZ operations impact businesses? Jason Strickland is the sales director for Givens, a family-owned logistics company based in Virginia that specializes in FTZs. With over 2.5 million square feet of warehouse space and half a dozen U.S. locations, the company has annual revenue of about $150 million. Tell me what products are around us.
So you're going to see a lot of motorcycles. We do a lot of automotive, but also have consumer electronics.
Since tariffs were announced, Strickland has seen a spike in interest in FTZs.
As soon as that trade war started, the phone started ringing off the hooks. I mean, in the first 5 days, I had about 65 opportunities.
Foreign trade zones fall under strict U.S. Customs and Border Protection supervision. Customs, for example, has overall responsibility for the movement of goods in and out of the zone. FTZs were created by Congress during the Great Depression to encourage international trade and boost exports. At that time, Smoot-Hawley tariffs reached as high as 53%. It can take up to a year to establish an FTZ, and Customs requires proof of security and inventory control measures. Historically, FTZs have had multiple benefits. Goods are imported to the U.S. duty-free. Duties are collected after a product leaves the zone and enters U.S. commerce. The benefit to companies delaying these costly duty payments frees up their cash flow. If a product is re-exported abroad, no duty payments are incurred. At an FTZ in Palmdale, California, for example, imported speakers and components are combined to manufacture computers. Those computers are exported overseas with no duty fees. Essentially, you're putting your product in a bubble,
Correct.
Right?
And you can release it into U.S. commerce, where you will pay the duties, or you can keep that bubble intact and export it where it never enters U.S. commerce.
Goods can stay in a foreign trade zone indefinitely, where they can be manipulated, manufactured, or repackaged before leaving the zone. How would you describe what's happening here?
This is just a manipulation of the goods. As you can see, there's some rust that is, they've come in. So what we're doing for them here is we're gonna knock the rust off before we send it into the manufacturing production line.
how we'll do it is actually bring it over to our washer machines and to our blaster machines and go ahead and just resurface the area for them, takes the rust completely off.
Companies also do not have to pay duties on scrap goods or defective parts. Foreign status merchandise received into FTZs in 2023 was $304 billion, about 9.7% of the $3.1 trillion in goods imported into the U.S. About 68% of shipments in FTZs involve domestic status merchandise. Companies that have operated inside foreign trade zones include Ford, GM, and Chrysler, as well as General Electric, Intel, and Sony. FTZs were used by Pfizer while it was developing the COVID vaccine. The program enabled Pfizer to produce shots without incurring additional duties on the drug components and store the vaccine until it received FDA approval. Until recently, companies could take advantage of what's known as an inverted tariff. That's when a company has the option of paying a lower duty rate on a finished product compared to the individual components. Instead of paying a higher duty rate on multiple raw materials, an automaker working in an FTZ can pay a duty on a finished car, which is generally much lower. But the Trump administration has ended that rule.
What we've seen lately, however, in the executive orders is a requirement that materials coming into a U.S. foreign trade zone come in a certain status that basically locks the existing tariffs on that material when it enters the zone, and it has to be paid no matter what, except for exporting. Now, that is obviously not what the program was designed to do in the first place. It was designed to give some tariff mitigation to make U.S. companies more competitive.
It's the Wild West because it could change in an hour. I mean, it could change at 3 a.m. We don't know.
To offset the impact of tariffs, some businesses have turned to another type of warehouse, bonded warehouses. Rick Muscat is the president of Deer Stags, a family business that makes $50 men's shoes sold at Macy's, Kohl's, JCPenney, and Amazon. The business imports about 2 million shoes annually. About 98% of those shoes are made in China. What makes China attractive?
China has developed an amazingly efficient supply chain.
But Deer Stag, like other footwear companies, pays hefty tariffs on those shoes. Imported shoes to the U.S. have over 430 duty classifications.
The shoe has a leather upper, and men's shoes with a leather upper pay an additional 7.5% duty on top of the pre-existing duty, which was 8.5%. So we now pay 16% duty on this shoe.
Additional tariffs have increased costs, creating further uncertainty. To help navigate the economic turmoil, Muscat has turned to bonded warehouses. Bonded warehouses are similar to foreign trade zones in several ways. Both are located near a port or airport. Imported goods are stored without facing immediate customs duties. There are 1,751 bonded warehouses nationwide. But there are key differences. Bonded warehouse storage is limited to 5 years. In an FTZ, goods can be stored indefinitely. Unlike FTZs at a bonded warehouse, U.S. Customs and Border Protection monitors and regulates the space. Another difference is related to tariffs. In a bonded warehouse, a tariff rate can decrease while an item is in storage. Then the shipper can release that item under the lower tariff rate and pay the lower rate. Normally, an FTZ also provides the same tariff buffer. But with the privileged foreign status added to this executive order, that ability to release the product under a lower tariff rate is no longer an option. That is driving U.S. shippers to bonded warehouses. We are here in the coveted bonded warehouse space. And while it looks empty behind me, it's not. In fact, all 20,000 square feet of bonded warehouse space is actually leased out in anticipation of freight coming in to mitigate the Trump tariffs. Why are companies turning towards the bonded warehouses versus the FTZs?
The bonded is what shelters you from the Trump tariffs right now. They can protect their cash flow till they have a buyer of said good, and then they can pay it based on where that tariff is when they withdraw it from that bonded area.
Any business involved in foreign trade can use a bonded warehouse.
When the president announced first a 10% across the board tariff, we talked to our factories, we got a little bit of a cost concession, but then it went to 20%, and then it went to 125%. We had 4 shipments that had left China in that period. We did have to pay an additional 10% on 2 of the shipments, and the 4th shipment would have been 125%. So we decided to put that container into a bonded warehouse.
What's interesting with both of these, a lot of people may think, how is this possibly legal? But this is federally regulated.
Correct. Yes, Customs has a very close eye on all of our activities for the bonded. They're the ones that dictate, what we can bond. They check on the space to ensure we're operating accurately and doing it the right way.
But costs can be significant.
Bonded warehousing it can become expensive based on your business model. So every time you withdraw, you have to pay a fee. So if I've got a container full of goods, 20 pallets worth, and I pull out 20 different pallets at 20 different times, that's 20 different withdrawals. Whereas an FTZ, it's just a running count that we report on a weekly basis.
Obviously adds some additional costs. We had to find a warehouse close by, pay them to receive the goods, store the goods. Actually just got word today that those goods are leaving the bonded warehouse and being directed toward our normal operating warehouse. And we believe the tariff that we will pay on that is 30%, not the 125%.
Region Tech, based in Long Island, manufactures thermoplastic road markings, the yellow and white lines you see on the roads.
Our product goes down on every road, every highway, and those roads need to be striped. So the material is important or people die.
Launched in 2016, the company has about 100 clients. Region's annual revenue is roughly $10 to $50 million. Helen Torkos runs the family business, which manufactures roughly 90 miles of road markings daily. What is the process of making the product?
So our product is made with between 7 to 11 ingredients, depending on what the formula is. Our guys take the material and they put it into each individual hopper. Once that material is mixed, that formula now, it gets dumped into another hopper and it's put into 50-pound bags.
But many of those ingredients can't be found in the U.S. How many of your components can truly be made here in America?
65%. So our product is basically like baking a cake. If you're missing one ingredient, you can't make that cake.
As a way to cut costs, around 2020, Region Tech applied for Foreign Trade Zone status for its Long Island facility.
Took us a while, took us about 18 months.
Torkos claims paying a lower duty rate on the finished product saved the company over $4 million.
Our thermoplastic markings, they are at a lower duty rate than they are with each individual product.
But the Trump administration has upended that business model.
We are not allowed to invert that tariff to our finished product. Now our costs are no longer where we thought they'd be. Now we're a lot higher because we're not getting the benefit of the FTZ. Right now, with the way it is, and that may change, we're sitting at about a 6 to 7% overpay of what we normally wouldn't be paying, and that we have to push off to our customers.
Torkos says economic uncertainty has not only increased costs for her and her customers, but hampered plans for future growth. Are your plans for growth on hold because of the uncertainty?
Definitely is. We have to make sure that something is set in stone at this point. Otherwise, we have to really hold back and hopefully not go under. Being a small company, every little dime that we spend it has to be accounted for. And if it's going to pay tariffs and taxes, it just doesn't work.
What is your biggest advice, for the shippers based on the questions that they're asking you?
At the end of the day, the goal is to protect your cash flow. You don't want to bring in all your goods and spend your cash flow against tariffs that may not be here in 6 weeks, 6 months. If you can defer until the market is ready to consume those goods, I think that's a win-win. We're the solution to get to the end of this madness.